Hi, I'm Bryan Golden. I'm the author of Dare to Live Without Limits. And I'm speaking tonight at the Saugerties Public Library about my book. My book is designed to show you all the ways that you can get the most from your life. Most people don't have a lot of time to read, and my book is perfect for you. All the chapters can be read in 5 or 10 minutes maximum. They show you all the different ways that you can break through your limitations, how you can overcome fear, how you can deal with obstacles, how you can get the most out of your life. So I welcome you to see my talk, and hopefully you enjoy it. So thanks so much for visiting my talk. Bryan Golden, author of Dare to Live Without Limits at the Saugerties Public Library. And please, if you have a chance, visit my website, which is www.daretolivewithoutlimits.com, where you can read some of my columns and listen to my weekly audio motivational minute. Thank you so much. Okay, how's everyone doing tonight?
Good enough.
So, my name is Bryan Golden, and I'm the author of Dare to Live Without Limits. You have the bookmark based on the book. And let me give you a little background about myself. What I do is I'm an adjunct professor at Dutchess Community College, also at the Culinary of America, but I don't teach cooking. And in addition to that, I'm listed in Who's Who in America as a self-development and motivational expert and speaker. I also write a nationally syndicated newspaper column. And in addition to that, I have an audio motivational minute, which is broadcast on radio stations around the country. So how did I get into this field of motivation? Throughout my career, I found that certain people are successful while other people aren't. And it always intrigued me as to why is that? What is the defining factor that allows some people to excel and others to stumble? And so it's always been kind of a quest for me to figure that out and to study it and also to use it, in my own business and my own endeavors. So that's been my motivating drive to do this. So I spent many years as a business and management consultant using the principles that I learned and I discovered, putting that into use. And then my true love really, as I found, was really sharing it with other people. So in 2002, I began my national syndicated column, and my book was released in 2004. So a couple things that I try to do in my book and my talking and my lectures, and that is to convey to people in plain English the concepts that they can use to improve their own lives. And another thing that people find is I think that many people are so harried in life and there's so little time that they don't have a lot of time to read. So what I did is my book is designed to be read. Each chapter can be read in 5 or 10 minutes. They're short chapters. They can be read in any order. And they've got some great topics that you see on the back of the bookmark I gave you. Change your life by changing your thinking. Throw away your mental garbage. Set and achieve your goals. Get through tough times. Squeeze the most out of each day. Avoid burnout. Gain a slight edge. Overcome fear. Become self-reliant. And manage stress are just some of the chapters in my book. So what is it that's really the essence of why some people succeed and others don't? Well, it's really the only thing that we have control over in our life. Does anybody have an idea of what that is? Well, it's the only thing that we have total control over.
Thinking.
There you go. Excellent. You get an A. It is. It's your thoughts. Okay? And it's our thoughts that control our reality, because perception is reality. And so I know when I'm teaching at the college, and I'll have a student say to me, I don't think I can pass this class. Well, they're right. Because if they don't think they can, they won't. And then on the other hand, there's someone who says, oh, I'm going to ace this class. I'm going to do really well. So whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And that's really the essence of what determines success or failure. It's simply someone's attitude. And a lot of people think that, oh, some people are just lucky with what happens to them. Let me give you some examples to disprove that concept altogether. Apple microcomputer was turned down by both Hewlett-Packard and Atari. So when it first came out, nobody wanted it. They felt, who had the need for a personal computer? IBM makes these big mainframes, and who's going to want a computer on their desk? But yet it persists today. In his first year in the automobile business, Henry Ford went bankrupt. 2 years later, his second company also failed. His third company, however, so far is still going. Dr. Seuss. Did you know he's not a real doctor? Just checking. Okay. His book was rejected by 23 publishers. The 24th publisher sold 6 million copies. So people are not instant successes. Howard Hughes. He was forced to abandon his first oil well because he couldn't drill through the hard rock. He then founded Hughes Tool Company and invented a rock drill that became the foundation for the family fortune. You may have heard of this concept, turning a lemon into lemonade. R.H. Macy. He went broke with his first 3 dry goods stores. So he wasn't as successful as Ford. It took him 4 tries. Paul Galvin, after his storage battery business failed the second time, in 1928 he borrowed $750, bought back part of it, and then went to business again as Motorola. Hi, how you doing?
Hi.
You here for the talk?
Yeah.
Grab a chair. We got one right over here. Hi, I'm Bryan Golden.
Hi, I'm Larry Lux.
How you doing? Welcome. Sorry. There you go. That's okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and how about anybody ever hear of J.K. Rowling? Okay. Well, she's got books in a lot of libraries, among other places. And do you know that her manuscript was handwritten? And do you know, if you've ever been involved with publishing, everybody in the publishing business will tell you that if you have anything handwritten, no one's going to read it. Okay? Not only was it handwritten, but it was rejected by many publishers. And when a publisher finally took it on, the publisher said to her, like, we're going to publish this, but no one's going to read it. Okay? So, even in spite of that, it's been successful. How about Simon Cowell? Heard of him? American Idol? Okay. Do you know that his first 2 or 3 record labels that he started failed? He wound up moving back at home with his parents at 30. Okay. And yet nobody considers him a failure. How about,
is that unusual?
Not today. The fact that what's unusual is that he's not living at home now. Oh. Okay, Babe Ruth, right? Babe Ruth had lots of hits. How many people know that he also had the record for strikeouts? Okay, so everybody who succeeded hasn't done so on the first time out of the box. They've gone on and on and on. Thomas Edison. Once heard of him? Okay. Did you realize, by the way, that if he didn't invent the light bulb, we'd all be watching TV in the dark? So does anyone have an idea of how many tries it took him to invent the light bulb? No one? It wasn't 1. You want to take a guess?
4.
4? 10,000 tries.
Ooh.
10,000 tries. Now, I like to think of myself as persistent, but I have to say, I'm not even in his league. Okay? So when a reporter interviewed him and asked him, how did it feel to fail? 9,999 times. He smiled and said, I haven't failed at all. I've discovered 9,999 ways a light bulb won't work. Okay? So it's all in the attitude and how people control their thinking. Now we all feel it. We're all human. We all feel there are things we can't do. Okay? Why is it that we have those limitations? Those limitations, I'd say for the most part, 99% of them are self-imposed on us for whatever reason. And there was a really interesting experiment done, not with people, but with a fish tank. What they did is took a fish tank and they put a whole bunch of goldfish on one side and they divided it in half with a piece of plexiglass and the other side was empty. So what do the goldfish do? It's not advanced biology. They swim. And what do? They keep swimming. They try to get to the other side of the tank. But what happens is they keep hitting the piece of plexiglass. And at some point, just like all of us, they gave up. And then, this is really fascinating, the piece of plexiglass was removed. And guess what the fish did? They stayed on one side. So the way I like to think of it is that piece of plexiglass we think is there isn't there. And so when we think that we can't do things, we can't. Another interesting experiment was on this time with people. It was actually with a bunch of elementary school kids. And they took kids from classes that are labeled, slow learners. And they pulled kids from different classes at random. And they told them that they were being selected because the aptitude test showed that they had an outstanding IQ. And they were put together in a class. Then they selected a teacher at random, and they said, well, you've been doing such a good job, we're going to reward you, and we're going to give you a class of gifted students. And for a teacher, this is a gift from God, to have a class of gifted students because they're easy to teach. So the teacher went in there expecting the students were going to perform well. The students went in there expecting that they were going to perform well. And guess what these slow learners did? They outperformed anything that anybody ever thought they could do. Because they were told they could do it, and they believed it because the teacher told them so. So these are how our limitations are imposed. But if our limitations are imposed like that, can't we get past them? What's one of the biggest things that holds people back?
Fear.
Fear of?
Failure.
Failure. Exactly. Boy, we got a good class here today. We have a gifted class. So it's fear of failure. So is fear of failure learned, or are we born with it?
Learned.
Good question.
Both.
Both. Well, let's see. Do you remember when you learned how to walk? I don't remember yesterday, so that's a tough question. But you've all seen kids learning how to walk. Does a kid look around seeing how all the big people do it and then get up and just start walking? No. What do? Fall down. Then what happens? They say, I can't do it. It's for everybody else but me. I'll go my own way. They crawl the rest of their life. They get up again, and they fall again. And they get up again. How many? Hundreds? If not thousands of times. Okay? So all that matters is that the kid gets up one more time, then he or she fell down. Now, do you know why we learn how to walk before we learn how to talk? Because that way we can't hear all the people telling us we can't do it. Okay? So fear of failure is something that's learned. So what we have to do is we have to actually go back to an infant mentality where anything is possible. It's what happens when we grow up. We're told all the things that we can't do, right? The rules aren't what we can do, the rules are what we shouldn't do, what we can't do. And then we start to believe it. And another thing that was done is they found that a lot of the kids and teenagers that wind up in jail, they were invariably told by their parents that they weren't going to amount to anything. And you know what? Everybody fulfills their dream, whether your dream is a positive one or a negative one, and they make it come true. So that's how powerful our mind is. Our mind works 24 hours a day to bring to reality whatever problems we feed it. Did you ever have something, a problem, a challenge, a difficulty, that you didn't know what to do, you didn't know what the answer was? And you're struggling and struggling with it. And then you'll get an answer that comes to you, but it's not while you're thinking about it. Maybe it's while you're driving the car, you're lying about it, you're eating, something totally unrelated. Did you ever notice that? Okay, why does that happen? Because whatever you put into your mind, it processes 24 hours a day, non-stop, until it finds a way to make it happen. Now, the mind doesn't care whether you're planting good stuff or you're planting weeds. Whatever thoughts you put in it, it just churns and churns and churns, and it looks for a way to make it happen. Now, did you ever do something and accomplish something, and someone said to you, gee, you shouldn't have been able to do that. How'd you pull that off? You didn't know enough. Did that ever happen to you? Small thing, a big thing? Because if you don't know any better, you just go and do it. When I started my consulting business, I had no idea how much I didn't know. And that was really good. Because if I knew how much I didn't know, I wouldn't have started. I had a book called How to Be a Consultant. That was it. I mean, okay, I could do this. Other people do it, so I just did it. When I sat down to write my column and to put out my book, you know, I just wanted to do it. It was what I wanted to do. If I listened to all the critics and the pundits, I wouldn't have started, because what are the odds of success? They're very low, right? But what's the difference? Somebody succeeds, I can succeed. You make, other than buying a lotto ticket, you determine what the odds are. And the harder you work, the better the luck that you have. Thomas Edison said that the more, I find that the harder I work, the more luck I have. Okay? And so that's really what it is. You know what happens when we see people who are successful? We don't see what it took to get to the top. We just see them at the top. Oh man, aren't they lucky? But you know what? Very few people just, get discovered out of the box, the actors. It happens, but it's the minority. It's people that go through and they try something, one thing doesn't work, they do something again. Thomas Edison, okay, Babe Ruth. And Babe Ruth's secret for succeeding was, I just keep swinging. Okay? So if I asked each one of you to define success, I bet everybody has a different definition, right? For some people it's money, it's family, it could be career, it could be recreation, it could be what you're going to do in retirement, it could be the kind of car you drive. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you define success. What does matter is that there is only one definition of failure. And the definition of failure is that you give up. Because if you don't get up one more time than you fall down, that's the only time that somebody fails. Okay, there is nothing else. There's an interesting story too about controlling your emotions. How many of you, well, emotions are a very important part of life, aren't they? How we feel. And did you ever hear somebody say, oh, that person made me really mad? Or that person really ticked me off or made me upset? How many of you, if I said to you, for the next 24 hours, I want to volunteer, I'm going to tell you when to feel happy, when to feel sad, when to smile, when to frown, when to laugh, when to cry. Would anybody volunteer? I would hope not. If you do, it's a really slow day. Okay? How about this though? Have you ever been driving? Pick any road you drive down, okay? Route 9 is a perfect example. And if you should happen to drive down 9 or 9W, or 208, 209, whatever the roads are, 212, and you happen to find a spot time when there's no traffic. It can happen. Okay, I'm not sure which is better odds, that or the winning the lotto. And there's no traffic, but there's a car ahead in an intersection. And the car is waiting. That's nice, the car's going to wait for me to go by. You're about 200 feet from the car pulls out in front of you, going in your direction, and is going about 20 miles an hour slower than you are. Has that ever happened? It happens everywhere. It's the same driver. Okay, so now it only happens when you're late. So what's your reaction? You say, yeah, way to go. That's wonderful. I was hoping for that. Some people get animated, right? Get fairly vocal, invent some new sign language. Okay? But the bottom line is that you're not happy. But yet nobody volunteered to allow me to control their emotions. But look what we've just allowed the person who's driving the car to do. And that happens so often. Somebody, you get into a... You ever go to... no matter how well you plan it, you go to the grocery store. And you can't pick the right line. You figure there's only one person there, and that's the person with 3 price checks, the bad check. There's no money in the wallet. Okay, so how many times do we go through something during the day and we get annoyed by it? So the bottom line is that you can't control your environment, but you can control how you react to it. And it's our choice, because the one thing we have total control over is our mind. And it's our mind that determines our reaction. Now, truly, it is a challenge sometimes. Now, as much as I write about this, I speak about it, I dream about it, it's my passion, I still have off days. I still get bummed out. I still get annoyed. So it's not the fact that you're going to reach perfection. It's a goal. What it means is when that happens to you, you don't stay there. So when I find myself getting annoyed, I say, okay, hold on. It doesn't have to be like this. So you just catch yourself and you minimize the amount of emotional downtime that you have. Here's another example. Imagine you're walking through the woods or a field or a park, and there's a log lying in your path. And you trip over it. And you skin your knees, you bang your toe. How do you feel? Probably the same way you do when the guy cut you off on the road. So you get up and you start yelling and screaming, cursing at the log, and you kick it. What does the log do? Does it get up and say, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you were coming by. If I had, I would have gotten out of your way. Just lies there. Well, challenges that we have in our life are like logs in our path. We can get upset with them, we can kick them, okay? We can get annoyed, and they just lie there. So the next time somebody cuts you off, or this bad checkout choice in the grocery store, just remember it's just a log in your path. You're going to get annoyed, and it's not going to matter. As a matter of fact, there are some people that get energized when you get upset. Believe it or not, and you probably all know some of those people. That they look to get under your skin and needle you, and when you react to them, they love it. So it doesn't do you any good, it doesn't do the other person any good. Because anger, bitterness, and resentment are poisons that eat you up. They don't hurt anybody else. Okay? So we want to learn to let that type of thing go. So, is it true that successful people don't have problems?
No.
No. Everybody has problems. The difference is that successful people become experts at solving their problems. Whereas people, and again, where people are not successful, those are the ones that give up. They say, it's not for me, it's not going to work, oh no, everybody else can walk, but I can't. So what happens is, people who are always struggling let the problems get the better of them. A successful person will say and believes that for every problem there is a solution. For every adversity there's an opportunity. And then someone who always struggles, they say, well, for every situation there's a problem. So you can come up with 1,000 reasons why you can't do something. That's a complete waste of your time. Because all you need is one reason why you can do something. By the way, with Thomas Edison, do you know that when he invented the light bulb, a lot of people got nervous? And they weren't happy with that invention. The reason they weren't happy is because they felt now because we have light, well, we're going to be expected to work 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And today that seems asinine, but yet people have a fear of that. Okay? So what happens is, you know, instead of Thomas Edison saying, look, I'm not going to be able to pull this light bulb off. Look, I failed 8,000 times. Who's going to criticize me? He believed that he knew that there was a way. And he was right. The the Claremont on the Hudson, you know where it gets its name from? It was the steamboat, Robert Fulton. His first successful steamboat was on the Hudson. And when he was going out, and he was going to go and start the steamboat, and they were going to give a demonstration ride, there was a farmer standing there, old timer, and he's shaking his head. They'll never get it moving. It'll never work. Never run. So things building up steam, smoke's billowing out, the paddle wheel starts to turn. Farmer's going to never work. It'll never work. Starts going, picks up steam, starts moving faster and faster, making a nice weight behind it. Farmer's still shaking his head. They'll never be able to stop it. No way, they'll never get it to stop. You know, and this is how some people are. Now, do you know any people they could fall into a mud puddle and they come out smelling like roses? And there are other people you could shower them with roses and they'll look and dive in a mud puddle. So the difference between the two types of people is, are they looking for problems or are they looking for solutions? There's another fascinating fact. Did you know that the majority of people that win big money in a lottery, that within 5 years, they are not only broke, but many of them are worse off than they were before they won the lottery? Go figure. I mean, it's truly astounding. You know, these are people that are winning tens of millions of dollars. You figure, how hard could that be to be okay? But yet, something goes haywire. Now, are they changed when they buy the money? Or is it their thinking process is that now just have more money to spend? Okay? And invariably, money doesn't really change someone. It just allows them to be more of who they were in the first place. It doesn't mean that everybody that wins a lottery that happens to, but it happens to a lot of people. So the way you're thinking, everything that happens in your life is connected to your thoughts and your outlook. Because there is nothing else. What about opportunity? How many times have you heard people say, you know, I'm waiting for my ship to come in. I'm waiting for opportunity to knock on my door. Well, successful people go out. They don't wait for opportunity. They go out and they look for opportunity. And if they can't find opportunity, they create opportunity. Okay, regardless of the economy, regardless of anything, there are always people that excel. There are people that made huge fortunes during the 1930s and the Depression. Okay, so no matter what happens, somebody sees that there's an opportunity. And there's an interesting story about this as well. Out in the Midwest, you know that it always floods. right? I don't understand why if it floods you go build a house in the same spot, but that's a separate issue. So what happened was there was this flood and there's this fellow in his house, and fairly religious fellow, and the water starts coming up, and the boat comes by. It's almost up to the porch and says, come on, we're evacuating everybody, it's going to be a bad one. And he goes, no, I'm going to be okay. I believe in God and God's going to take care of me. So they say, okay, whatever you want to do. They go by, water comes up, and now he's on the second floor. Another boat comes by, same thing, come on, it's not looking good. He says, I know, but believe it or not, I'm going to be okay because I have faith. So the water keeps rising. Next thing you know, he's hanging onto the antenna on the chimney. Right? You can't even see the house. Helicopter comes by. He's just not going to go because he believes that he's going to be okay because he has faith. Next thing happens, the chimney breaks off, the fellow drowns. Well, he's up in heaven and he's not happy. And he's in front of God and he says, what happened all my life? I believed in you. I lived my life the right way. I believed in you. How come you didn't take care of me? So God looks at him and says, I sent you 2 boats and a helicopter. Yeah. What else can I do? Okay? So what you have to do is you have to look for opportunity very often which stares you in the face. And lots of times, people will go from one town to another. They'll buy one house. They'll change jobs. And they're always looking for the perfect opportunity. And there's another interesting story. You ever hear of acres of diamonds? This is a true story. This was in the late 1800s, early 1900s. It happened in South Africa. A fellow had bought a farm, and he was going just terrible, terrible soil condition. It was rocky. He couldn't get anything to grow. The plows kept breaking. And then he's struggling as a farmer. He said, I don't know how do people pull this off. And then there came news that they were finding all these diamond mines in South Africa. And the guy goes, anything's got to be better than trying to run this farm. So he sells the farm for next to nothing. Out he goes looking for diamonds. So the guy that buys the farm, he's got the same problems. But he doesn't know anything. So he says, he found these rocks and stuff, and he hired a geologist. Is there anything he could do? And guess what the rocks were that were in his field?
Diamonds.
They were diamonds. Okay, it's called Acres of Diamonds. The actual book is a little book like this. But the moral of the story is that everybody has opportunity right where they are, right in their own backyard. With what they know, with who they are, they can do whatever they want to do. Okay? And most people, it's always, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. And that's so true. So, another story that I like about opportunity is, there was a shoe salesman, and the shoe company was looking to expand over some third world country. So he figured that's got to be a great market. So he sends his most seasoned salesperson over there to sell shoes. And the guy's over there for a month, 2 months, nothing's happening. After the 3rd month, they get, it's back in the days of telegrams, they get an urgent telegram. What are you, punishing me? Send me over here. Nobody wears shoes. So who am I going to sell to? So they bring them back home, and the owner of the company says, I still think there's a market. So they took this guy they just brought on board, sent him over there. A month goes by, 2 months goes by. 3rd month, the orders start coming in. And they get bigger and bigger orders. And they get a telegram. The guy was so excited. He said, this is great. Nobody wears shoes. Everybody needs them.
Yeah,
okay.
right.
So why is it that you can have 2 people living side by side? They could be in the same household, same age, and yet one person literally lives in heaven, and the other person lives their life in hell. What is it that makes the difference? It's the way they look at life. Are people seeing opportunities, or are they seeing adversity? And one way I heard to describe the difference between heaven and hell is like this. Down in hell, there's a big banquet table. And it's got all the food you can imagine, an unlimited supply. And on either side of the table are sitting people. But they look unhappy. They're gaunt. They're underfed, malnourished. Nobody's smiling. Nobody's talking. And then if you look at it further, on their right hand, there's strapped a 6-foot fork. And on their left hand, there's a 6-foot knife. So nobody's happy because you have all this food, but you can't eat. But then you go up into heaven. And heaven's got a table with as much food as you could want. All kinds. The same deal that's down in hell. The people are laughing. They're happy. They're well-fed. They're well-nourished. It's just got a great atmosphere. And then you look, on their right hand is strapped a 6-foot fork. And on their left hand is strapped a 6-foot knife. So what's the difference? They're feeding the other people on the other side of the table. So, do you see a problem, or do you see adversity? And lots of reasons, lots of times people do something because, you ever hear this one? Well, that's the way we always do it. Ever hear that? That's the way we always do it. So let me tell you a story about a family reunion. Family reunion, there were actually I think 4 generations of people. Lots of people. And so the mother's going to, the mother of a 12-year-old girl, whatever level she's at, she's going to get the roast ready to put it in the oven. So what she does is she trims off 2 inches on either side of the roast and puts it in the oven. So her daughter says, "Ma, how come you do that?" The mother said, "Well, that's the way my mother taught me." So they go to the grandmother and they say, "How come we learn to trim the roast with 2 inches on either side?" And she says, "I don't know. Let's go talk to the great-grandmother." So they go find the great-grandmother. She just starts laughing. And she says, "That's because the roast wouldn't fit in my oven." So what I want to do is just kind of go through some of the, I have in my book 10 basic principles that I'd like to go through. First of all, one is you are what you think about. Okay? And what's an important concept with this is something called visualization. How do you see yourself? Do you see yourself happy? Do you see yourself sad? Do you see yourself solving problems, or do you see yourself saddled with the world's weight? Do you see yourself as being in control of your life, or do you see yourself as a victim? Okay? Because how you think determines who you are, how you feel, and what you accomplish. Visualization is really important. Okay? Can you imagine an Olympic skier getting at the top of the hill, going down for the gold medal, saying to himself or herself, "Gee, I hope I don't trip on this one." Or how about an Olympic diver going up there, "I don't want to land on my back." Right? Okay, does that happen, or do they visualize something else? What do you think they visualize before they even start?
Perfection.
Perfection, exactly. This is their goal. So visualization is such an important thing. And it's actually been shown that mental visualization has the exact same effect as physical practice. That's how powerful your mind was. There's one story of it was a former POW in Vietnam, spent 4 or 5 years in a prison. And since they didn't have a lot of recreational opportunities available while he was there, what he did to buy the time and maintain his sanity is he was an avid golfer before he was in prison. And so what he did is every day he played golf in his mind. He picked the shots he had trouble with, he played all the courses he wanted to. And then when he got out, it has been years and years since he played golf. He actually played better than he had before he went into prison. So you ever hear this when people go, "I'm going to try that, but I know it's not going to work." Well, don't bother. Because if you know it's not going to work, why are you trying? See, try is a backdoor for failure. Because when people say try, that means, okay, well, I tried, but it didn't work, so you can't blame me. So instead of using the word try, you want to use the word I will. Because you've all heard, how about this one? You've heard say, "Don't burn your bridges behind you." You want to burn your bridges behind you. Because if you have bridges behind you, then you can retreat. And if you're trying, then I can go backwards if it doesn't work. But if you say I will, then you go forward. And there's one case, I forget when it was, but it might have been back in the days of the Vikings. And what happens, the army, I think it was a Viking army, they landed on short of whatever they were capturing at the time. And the commander burned the boats. And they were looking at it and say, "Why'd you do that?" "Well, there's only one way home. It's that way." And, there's no return. You've got to go forward. So don't use the word "I'm going to try," but I will. I'll find a way, whatever it takes. So how you think, your thoughts determine who you are and what you accomplish. How about goals? How many people have goals? Well, I'm not a good person for that because my goals are really short term, like what am I going to do today? But, growing up, you had your 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 20-year goals. I could never do that. But goals are important even if it's what you're going to do. Like I set a goal, I'm going to write a book. And that was my goal. And when you have a goal, it gives you something to focus on. What would happen if you just got in your car and just started driving? You didn't know where you wanted to go. You go wind up somewhere. Is it where you want to be? Who knows? Can you imagine a ship captain taking a ship out on the ocean? No charts, no map, no rudder. Wind up somewhere. Maybe. Okay? That's what life is like without goals. Now, one of the things with goals is the goals have to be yours. How many times have you heard somebody growing up say, well, I became a doctor because my parents wanted me to. I got married and had a family because that's what my parents expected. If you try to live somebody else's goals, you're not going to be happy. The only goals that you can live are your own. And there are no bad goals. Whatever goal you want, it doesn't matter. Don't allow other people to criticize and condemn you. Well, actually, they're going to do it anyway. You can't stop them. Don't believe them. See, you can't control what other people say, but you don't have to believe it, right? So why are you going to do that? Well, it's a waste of your time. People say, well, you're writing a book, that's kind of hard, isn't it? I said, yeah, but that's what I want to do. So setting goals is great. And, sometimes you'll see a lot of them. You remember The Secret? You ever remember see the movie The Secret or the book? It was pretty popular a couple of years ago. Well, one of the things with having goals is it's only a start. So if I have goals and I just sit there, and I really want it, right? And I think all the right thoughts. You think I'll ever accomplish the goal?
No.
No, because goals have to be combined with actions. And it's actions that make things work. See, the goal is the fuel that you put into the engine called action. And without taking action, you go nowhere. It's like getting in a car, full tank of gas, you don't start the engine. Or you start the engine, you don't put it into gear. So then you have goals and you have to take action. But what if goals seem overwhelming? You ever have that? I do a lot of teaching at the college and I get a lot of returning students. And I'm really impressed by it. I've got this one woman, she works full-time in a hospital as a receptionist. She's got 2 young kids. She's going to school to become a nurse. I said, what do you do with your free time? Okay? So if you have goals, and she's older, I'm talking, she's probably in her late 30s, early 40s. Older meaning she's not a teenager coming out of high school. So isn't it kind of overwhelming to think, okay, I'm going to go to school part-time, and boy, that's a lot of work. What if it takes me 10 years to graduate? Well, here's a newsflash. The 10 years go by anyway. Okay? And 10 years later, you say, well, I've got my degree. Or I should have started, if I had started 10 years ago, look where I'd be today. So what you do is you break it down. So what I advise students to do is, if you want to go back to school, don't overwhelm yourself. Take little bitty steps. Say, well, what would you like to study? Okay, that's doable. I can figure that out. Okay, that's great. So then think, okay, well, where would you like to go to school? I can figure that out. Okay, just write and get a course catalog. I can do that. Pick one course. I can do that. Register for the course. So now you take a goal which is potentially overwhelming. And you just say little bitty steps. And then, before you know it, you've accomplished your journey. Right? Because there's an old saying, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. And the time goes by anyway. So the way you do is you make sure you pick your goals. Then what you do is you take your goals and you break them down into manageable steps. And then you just take the first step. And then you take the second. Because the time is going to go by anyway. Okay? And here's something else too. Some people worry about, well, gee, maybe I'm too old for something. People say I'm too young for something. But it doesn't really matter, because you're never going to be as young as you are today. You okay with that thought? Just want to check? All right. Some people weren't sure. Okay. So, talking about that, all we have is today. How many people think this? Well, gee, if I had done things differently, things would be better today. Got to raise your hand, because everybody thinks that. It's normal. Okay? But it's a waste of time. Can you turn back the time 1/1,000,000th of a second? So what chance do you have of going back a day? 2 days, a year? No. But yet, how many people will go through, I woulda, shoulda, coulda? And they say, well, gee, when I was young, my teacher yelled at me, my friend told me I was no good. Get over it. Okay? We all have bad experiences. If we could do things over, we would. So what? You can't. All you can do from past experiences is not make the same mistakes again. So it has something to teach you, not to lament the past. So you don't want to allow your past to pollute your future. Okay? Now, so we can't turn back the clock. Now, how many people worry about tomorrow? All right, so look at what we're doing to ourselves. We're stressed about the past. We're worrying about tomorrow. How much time do you have for today?
Not much.
How many people ever wake up tomorrow? It's a trick question. I'm not a purveyor of doom and gloom. When you wake up, what day is it?
Today.
That's the only day you ever wake up. Okay? So all you can do is what you can do today. How many people worry? Again, it's a normal process. Worry is like being in a rocking chair. It's a lot of activity, doesn't get you anywhere. You can go like furious, like gangbusters. You can wear out the floor. All you do is go in the basement. Okay? It doesn't matter. Have anybody worried really, really hard, and then their problems went away? All you do is you get stressed out. You can't eat, you eat too much, you can't sleep, you sleep too much, whatever it is, it's not right. So what is the antidote for worry? Well, you can break things down into two different groups in life. Either you can do something about it or you can't. All right? If you can't do something about it, forget it. It takes practice, not easy. If you can do something about it, then do it. But that's it. You divide into two. Is that out of my control? Yes or no? The answer is yes? Okay, go on to something else. But if you just sit there and worry, now it takes practice. It's not easy. I worry too. Okay? But I don't like it. So when I catch myself worrying, I say, okay, forget it. It's a waste of time. So all the things that I'm talking about today all work. They're all proven. People use them successfully. There's nothing that I'm talking about is theory. Some people listen to my talks and walk out and say it doesn't work. I say, okay, fine. For you, it's not. Okay? But the thing is, you're not going to go out and use all the things and overnight everything works for you. I still struggle with stuff. I'm a work in progress. I know this stuff. I still practice it. And especially when you're not used to it. The first time you try it, it may not work right. Oh, it didn't work. I tried to stop worrying, but I couldn't. Okay? So what you do is, you just keep at it. And you keep at it. Because habits, for some reason, bad habits form faster than good ones. But it's just a question of repetition and persistence in terms of building habits. Okay, so talking about that, never ever give up. Okay? Be inspired from what you went through learning how to walk. Because if you ever give up, then what happens? When you give up, you fail. And you all said nobody likes to fail. So therefore, giving up is no longer an option. See, I don't fail anymore. I take seminars. It doesn't mean that everything I do works, because it certainly doesn't. But when it doesn't work, I say, I'm like Thomas Edison, I'm on my way. I found another way, something didn't work. And now there's no stigma attached to taking seminars. Everybody likes to do that, get an education. Right? So what you want to do is don't fail anymore, take seminars, and seminars are not bad. Because when people say, I keep failing, well, that's discouraging. I'm learning. I'm learning more and more about something that won't work, and I'm going to try it a different way. So, building on that, education never ends. When somebody goes through graduation, what's it called? Commencement. And commencement doesn't mean the end, does it? Beginning. It means the beginning. Because many people think that when they get out of high school or college or graduate studies that that's it. Now all of us are deluded when we're young. And we think we've got to figure it out, and as we get older, don't we realize it's frightening how much we don't know? Okay? So education never ends. You're all doing it now. You're coming to my talk, which is great. So what that means is you don't just learn in school, you don't just learn from books, you learn from everybody. Everybody can be your teacher. People who are successful and people who are not successful. You can learn from everybody. So that's what you always want to do. So many opportunities. There are things I need to find out even just to research. I just go on the internet. I just type in a question. Because all these resources, if I have a topic, I just look at a brainstorm. So the opportunities for education are more now than ever have been in history. But that being said, that you can learn from anybody. You have to be very discriminating in terms of who you take advice from. Have you ever heard of this one? How come you bought that stock? My barber said it was a good buy. Or how come you did that? Well, how come you were looking for this kind of job? My neighbor told me. What does he do? He's unemployed. Right? Have you ever heard that? You might have even happened to you yourself. So if you're going to take advice from someone, make sure that person is in a position that you want to be. So if you want to learn how to buy stocks, I'm not advocating that, but if you did, you could talk to someone like Warren Buffett, who has a fairly good track record. Okay? If you want to learn how to fly, you talk to someone like a Chuck Yeager. Right? You don't talk to someone who's got model airplane books. Okay? Or pictures of airplanes up on the ceiling. You talk to someone who has done it. Now, what if you don't know anybody who's done what you want to do? It doesn't matter. Because you can research them, you can read about it, they write books, there are interviews about them. Okay? One of the things that I did, I thought when I was in school and I was doing stuff and I was just pulling it off and people said you shouldn't be able to do it, I thought, oh, this is kind of cool. And then I realized there's actually a whole science to it. And the first book, pretty much in terms of motivational, positive reinforcement, is something called Think and Grow Rich. Did anyone ever hear of that book? Think and Grow Rich. Written in the 30s. And the author, Napoleon Hill, he actually had a challenge from Andrew Carnegie, the steel guy. And he said, look, if you will spend the next 20 years researching why it is that people are successful, I'll give you all the letters of introduction you need. So I'm not going to pay you. He truly said this, but you figure you make a living on your own, but I'll get you. And the guy was intrigued by it. And that's what he did. And you know what? These principles that I write about, I didn't invent them. No one invented them. They just occur. Occurs in nature. Okay? And they all work. They're timeless. They've always been used. And that's one of the reasons that I like what I do, because it doesn't go out of date. I did a lot of work for many years doing computer systems. And boy, talk about frustrating. It's always changing. Something is always new. I wanted something that's always the same. So that's one of the reasons that I really like what I'm doing now, because I can tell these concepts today, they'll be good for 1,000 years from now. It works for anybody that uses them. So your education never ends. Now, you ever come back at the end of the day, from work, from whatever, socializing, and you feel really dragged out, bummed out? You got to recharge. It's kind of like if you turn a flashlight on, leave it on for a number of hours, the bulb dims. So how do you recharge? You recharge by doing things like this, talking to other positive people. If you don't know positive people, you can read about them. You can read my book. It'll help you recharge. Okay, so there are lots of things you can do to plug in and get re-energized. Now, why is it, you've heard all these studies, look at all the ads for antidepressant medicine on TV. Why are people so depressed? Well, figure out, here's what people's schedules are. Wake up in the morning, as you're getting ready, what do people do? They flip on the TV news. Now, it's never good news. I don't care when you put it on, it's not good news. Okay? So they spend the morning, now they in the car, whatever, they listen to the news on the radio. Then they get to work and they probably have a challenging day because many people are not doing the things they love. Then they come home, and what do they do when they come home? Well, I watch the evening news, see if anything changed. Okay? And now when they're watching the evening news, very often they're also eating dinner. How does it affect the digestion? And then what do you do just before they go to bed? Well, let's catch the 11 o'clock news, just in case I miss something. So how can you have a good day? So what do? Remember, it's your choice. There's a high-tech device that just installed on TV. Actually, they might have been there for a while. It's called the channel changer or the on-off switch. Okay? Now, how would you feel if you had a brand new beige carpet in your living room, and I were to come in and take a garbage can full of all kinds of kitchen waste, coffee grinds, chicken bones, oil, fat, compost. Perfect. And I were to take that, and I were to just dump it on your brand new carpet. How would you feel?
No, it goes in the compost.
Well, what if it didn't? Right? So you'd be bummed out, to say the very least. You might even be upset at me. Okay, but how about our mind? Isn't your mind worth more than that carpet? But look at all the things that we expose our mind to that make us feel bad. When I go to a movie, I always ask somebody, does that have a good ending? I don't. People, oh no, it's really realistic. Well, I can get that with the news, and I just don't watch that. So I want a movie that has nothing to do with reality that has a good ending. Oh, but it's so emotional. I don't want it. It's my choice. If you like it, that's up to you. But you pick and choose. And if you're not feeling good, then you can make changes in terms of the things that you're exposing yourself to. Okay, guarding your time. Okay, here's another tough question for you. How many hours does everybody have in a day?
24.
Okay, now, some people work and they get done like they have 30 hours. Sometimes you struggle and you figure out it seems like I only had 2 hours. But you have to guard your time. Did you ever go out to lunch with somebody and it's like a gripe session? All people do is complain. and you don't even feel like getting out of your chair. Because your time is up to you how you use it. You pick and choose. You have to be, the concept I heard was being ruthless with your time. What that means is if it's not going to work for you, you can decline. Say, thanks for asking me out, but unfortunately I've got something else. You're never mean or rude to somebody. What if people ask you to volunteer for something? You ever have that happen? Oh, can you do this? Can you do that? Here's how you do it. You always say no without using the word no. Thank you so much for asking. I'm really glad you asked. You thought of me. I'd love to. Unfortunately, I have a prior commitment. That's all. Because you have to learn the word no. Because if there's something you don't want to do that doesn't fit into getting you toward your goals, then you have to say no. If you don't, your time is drained. And it's a struggle enough as it is, right? Isn't it true that each year time seems to go by faster? Do you remember when you were a kid and your parents told you they can't believe how quickly you've grown and you're only 5 years old and how fast time has gone by? They're lying to me. You think they're lying. It's just that school, summer went by quick, school year was interminable. But it happens. Each year goes by faster. Who knows why? It doesn't matter. It just happens. So that means each year it's even more important to be really guarding your time and making sure you're devoting your efforts to those things that you really want to do. What you project, you receive. You are a magnet. And this is why earlier when I talked about the people that fall in mud and come up covered with roses and vice versa. Because people that have a positive attitude, people that believe in things being possible, solving problems, they wind up attracting good things in their life. Have you ever experienced that? You get up, you have a good day, everything just goes right. And have you also experienced the reverse? Where you wake up and nothing goes. It's your attitude. Your attitude actually attracts the things you need and repels the things you don't want. But if you've got a bad attitude, it does this reverse. You wind up repelling the things that you really should have and attracting the things you don't want. So when you put your goals together, it should always be in terms of what you want to accomplish, not what you want to avoid. Can you imagine somebody getting up and saying, okay, I have a goal. I don't want to get hit by a bus today. That's a goal, but it's in a negative. Your goal should always be a positive, what you want to do, not what you want to avoid. So there's a difference between somebody saying, I don't want to be poor, versus I want to be successful. Okay? So always have something, not what you're trying to avoid, but what you're trying to accomplish. And then with your attitude, you create this powerful magnet that attracts things in your life. Is it 100%? No. Nothing in life is 100%, but would you be happy with 95%? Would you go to Las Vegas if there's a 95% chance of you winning? Yeah, everybody quit their job today. So, but a lot of people live their lives 50-50, or even they're down in the low ends. So if you can get up into the 90%, isn't it worth it? All right, not every day is going to be good mentally, but if you can get 95% of your days working out, isn't that worthwhile? And the goal is to be 100%. Okay, so the things that I've talked about tonight are things that all work. I've experienced every single thing that I write about. If I haven't done it, if I can't prove it, if I can't give you an example, I won't tell people about it. And not only have I done it, I don't have a monopoly on it. People that are successful use it. Some people are aware of it, some people aren't. I wasn't really aware of what I was doing. I just knew I was making things work, and then I found out the reason why. So I've just gone over basically just the introduction here in terms of the 10 principles. Let me just give you some of the other chapters. You're free to come up and take a look at a copy of the book as well. So we talk about perception is reality. I have an 8-step plan to reach your goals. How about the certainty of uncertainty? Change is the only thing that's going to be constant in your life. Even if you don't want some things to change, too bad. So you may as well just make the best out of that. Talking about each one of the concepts we talked about, I devoted a chapter to it as well. How about activity versus productivity? Does anyone understand the difference between activity and productivity? What do you think it is?
Well, I mean, you can be, it has to do with accomplishing something that's meaningful to you as opposed to just keeping busy.
Exactly, that's in a nutshell.
Kind of thing.
Perfect. It means if you're productive, you're working toward a goal. Could be a short-term goal, could be a goal for the hour, for the day, for the year. If you're active, you're just busy. Okay, I call that displacement activity. How about this? You ever been sitting at your desk, you don't know what to do? So you organize your file. I'm not saying that's not important, but that by itself doesn't really necessarily get you towards your goal. Right? Or you go out and some people wash their car, they mow the lawn, they do the laundry, they organize their sock drawer. This way you don't feel guilty. Well, I'm not doing nothing. So what happens is now, legitimately we need breaks. You get burnt out, you're just so focused. If you're going to take a break, make it fun. Don't delude yourself while I'm organizing. That's not a break, organizing a sock drawer. We're going to take a real break, do something different, then come back and be refreshed. Another good way of taking breaks is changing tasks. I'm burnt out on this, let me work on this now. Okay? And there's also a principle that controls that's called the 80-20 principle. Has anyone ever heard of that? The 80-20 principle. And I forget the name of the fellow who discovered this. But what he was doing is he studied a sales organization. And he found out that 80% of the sales were made by 20% of the sales force. So 20% of the sales force made 80% of the sales. The other 80% made 20%. And he didn't stop it. No matter what he studied, this is the way it worked. In your life, there's 20% of your efforts that get you 80% of your results. Those are the 20% you want to focus on. And that's, again, focusing on fine-tuning the difference between activity and productivity. How about a slight edge? I talk about how to achieve that. What do we mean by a slight edge? What is the we remember the Olympics during the summer. Do you remember there was one race that Michael Phelps won by 1/100th of a second? It's fair to say it couldn't be closer. Who came in second?
Nobody knows.
I don't know.
No one knows, but everybody knows who came in first. What about the Kentucky Derby? Have you ever heard of a concept called a photo finish? It's so tight that they literally have to look at the picture to see which horse won. So the slight edge means you can do a little bit more that gets you results out of all proportion to the extra effort you put in. What's the difference if you're going on an interview between being 3 minutes early and 3 minutes late?
Big.
3 minutes, but a big difference in results, all right? So I talk about the slight edge. What about having an attitude of gratitude? Did you ever have an off day, you get up, just don't feel right? How do you fix that? I call that having an attitude of gratitude. And what that means is, what you're doing is, you're taking for granted all the good things in your life. And I challenge you to go through a list of all the things you have to be fortunate about in your life, and then try to feel bad. Just the fact that you're waking up is something that you should be pleased with, because there are some people that don't. Okay? So every day is a great day. And if you doubt that, try missing one. Try skipping one. So I talk about having an attitude of gratitude. Inspirational dissatisfaction. So how do you keep yourself motivated, yet appreciative of everything you have? So what you want to do is, although you're going to appreciate everything you have, you still need to keep that fire alive, that drive to want to make it better, to want to improve, to want to accomplish more. And that's called inspirational dissatisfaction. Nice people finish first. That's not what you hear, is it? What do you hear? Nice people finish last? That's not true. Nice people finish first. But being nice is not synonymous with being taken advantage of or stepped on. So you can be a nice person, but as long as you know how to use that word no, you will not be taken advantage of. So nice people do finish first. I talk about here living without anger, interacting with difficult people. That's a challenge for us, isn't it? Because those are the people that, quote, make us mad. But we're going to change that. Talk about be happy, have fun, don't worry. Managing stress. Taking chances. There was a poem, it's in the book, it's about this woman, I think she was in her 80s or 90s, and the essence of it was she talked about that her regrets were not the things that she did, but the things she didn't do. So when we take chances, or what keeps us from taking chances? What is it? That fear of failure. And if you think about what's the worst that'll happen if you do something and it doesn't work out? I'm not talking about doing the high wire or skydiving, okay, unless that's your thing, then you carry a spare parachute. I'm talking about doing the things you want if you do something that doesn't work out. Oh, I don't know if I can pass this course. Well, worst case is if you don't, so what? If you really want to learn, you take it again. Okay? Did you know that Thomas Edison only had about 3 months of formal schooling? Einstein failed math at one point. Okay, do you think there were people telling him that, you know, this is not for you? So I'd like to leave you with one thought, and that is the word impossible, which has all been beaten into our head that something is impossible. The way I'd like you to redefine impossible is the I in impossible means it. The M means means. So the word impossible actually stands for it means possible. So when somebody tells me that something is impossible, I say that's for me. Because if everybody's agreeing with you and says, yeah, you're on the right track, that's like a nightmare. Because you don't want what everybody else has, you want what you want. And when people are telling you that what you're doing is wrong, you'll never make it work, then you're on the right track. Have you heard of Marconi? I forget his first name. He invented the radio. Do you know that his relatives wanted to have him institutionalized? Because the man was truly insane. Who in their right mind is going to be able to communicate without wires? So everybody that's ever accomplished anything in this world has been told they were nuts. James Cameron, who did the movie Titanic. Everybody told him, don't do it. You're going to spend so much money, no one's going to go see a movie that know what the ending's going to be. And that was, I think, was like the number 1, 2 movies of all time. Okay, so everybody who's been successful has been laughed at. They've had to deal with derision, criticism. And do you know that there has never been a statue erected to a critic? Okay, everybody can sit there and criticize. You know what? People will line up to give you their opinion, even if you don't ask. Isn't that true?
Yes.
So remember, when people are telling you you're nuts, that's a good thing. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. I have some copies of my book. They're normally $13.95. Tonight they're just $12 since you came here. And I can do something that you can't buy in the book, so I can autograph it for you, which makes it priceless. And so feel free to come and take a look if you'd like one. If not, if you want to get one later on the card I gave you. Did I give you one of these?
Yes.
Okay. I have a website on the back. You can go there, read some of my columns. Also has the ISBN number. You can order from any bookstore if you don't want to get one tonight.
Do